Hello and welcome to your NARSA weekly update for the week commencing Monday, January the 12th, 2026. It's Gary here again. You know what? 2026 has actually been pretty good to us thus far. You know, the very end of 2025 and the very beginning of 2026 is as good as we could hope for in terms of our results and in terms of other results that have happened elsewhere to put us right firmly back in the title race, put us in second spot. As it stands right now, it's been an interesting time. You know, when I was sitting thinking or preparing basically for today's podcast, I was looking at the 2026 results. If someone had says you're going to play away at Sharkhead, away at Pittodrie, and then at home to Aberdeen, and the two Aberdeen games are in the same week, I guess all three games are in the same week, of course, then, you know, you kind of do, I always talk about the mental mathematics. I would be like, you know what, 7 points out of 9 would be great, or, you know, whatever that looks like. And to get 9 out of 9, and if you take away the first half at Sharkhead, which wasn't great at all, the other two games were kind of routine, kind of like a canter, basically. So things are, and you know, I was going to say things are starting to feel like they used to feel. Here's the thing for me. I can slot back into that really, you know, confident Rangers fan very, very, very quickly to say it's just Aberdeen. It's just Aberdeen away. It's just Sharkhead away. You know, I'm good. I'm ready whenever you are, Rangers. It's really the message that I'm trying to give you right now, because it feels very familiar to me, quite honestly. It does. And it's great. And then as I was doing the preparation, you start to look back. I mean, since the Hearts game, which was awful. And if you listen to the podcast at that point, that was my lowest ebb for quite some time, quite honestly, because it was just things were looking up before that. You know, with the Hibs result, with a couple of dodgy results in the November, beginning of December, Falkirk and Dundee United, things were looking up, and then we just hit just an awful performance the whole entire game against Hearts, and then you're thinking, what's that? And then I think that's 5 wins in a row. You know, you include Motherwell, include St Mirren in there as well, and you know, if you look at this week, actually, I mean, I guess if you added those in as well, what's that? 5 games, and we've scored 10 goals and conceded 2 against St Mirren, Motherwell, that mob, and Aberdeen twice. That's great shooting. I mean, that's championship winning form right now. I'm not going to be as bold to say that we're going to win a championship. It's just good, as I've said, to be in the mix and to have other people starting to think, right, okay, we've got Rangers coming up, you know, the best we could do is possibly a point. And you can see we're starting to fire in different types and styles of cylinders and different function and different parts of the game. You know, in terms of our set piece play, in terms of our clean sheet record is really good. And with the defence that we've got, for us to continue to prosper in defence is absolutely incredible. It's absolutely brilliant, I have to say. So it's a thing, you know. And then today, what do you hear about in the newspapers today? You hear about Nico Raskin giving a sheep a wash. That's what you hear about. You don't hear about our substitutes and players on the field getting pelted with cups and bottles or whatever else it was that was getting thrown on the pitch. You hear about him spraying some poor wee guy who was in need of a wash. It's absolutely ridiculous, the amount of hypocrisy that we have, that certain people have, not we, that certain people have as fans, to be able to say, I'm going to give you abuse for 95, 100 minutes in the afternoon, and if you turn around and, you know, give me the fingers or give me the finger or say something mean and nasty, I'm going to just shrivel up and report you to the authorities. Just absolutely wild, stupid. Anyway, but another great news for this last week, we made a signing. And I'm going to try this, and I'm probably going to butcher it, and I do apologise. Hopefully he gets a nickname kind of quick. But we've got Toshi Shukwani, something like that. And saw some of the interview yesterday as he just signed, because I think it was confirmed basically just before kickoff, wasn't it? And it speaks very well. You know, and having played with Diamande and having played with Oliver Antman as well, it's a familiar face, and there's a lot to be said for that, you know, in terms of his ability to settle. And I know there's some people out there that are saying they get paid enough money, they're travelling guys, they're kind of built like that, the ability to be able to travel on a moment's notice and settle in somewhere else. It doesn't work like that as a human being. I know that from my business work that I do as a life and leadership coach. So great to have a wee bit of familiarity there, but spoke very, very well. I thought, you know, knows a wee bit about us, talked about Gaza and such like that as well. So has a wee bit of a understanding of the history at the same time as well. And we have not just on the field, we have a key position filled in the boardroom where we now have a new CEO, and Jim Gillespie finally joined us after the saga that was, what was that, after James Bisgrove, and he looked like he was coming. It kind of felt like a deal was agreed at that point, and then for whatever reason he decided to stay where he was, so that instantaneously makes him an enemy of us. We're like, right, well, you can go and beat it then, you arsehole. And then all of a sudden we have the ill-fated spell of Patrick Stewart, and we do another canvas out there, and he decides that now is the time for him to come along as well. And interestingly enough, on the Rangers website, they did a good job. It was kind of vague about when he's joining us, isn't it? You know, that from the information that I've read today anyway, when he joins us later in the season, you know, I'm assuming it's the Kibble stuff, maybe not the St Mirren stuff that's holding him back, because I'm assuming he still has a role at St Mirren and he still has to resign that. But I'm guessing there's, a month, 2 months notice or something like that. But you would imagine if he's put pen to paper and he's confirmed that there'll be that opportunity for him to start to bed in, to get to meet the staff on occasion, maybe take some holidays now and again and do whatever he needs to do. It's the same as anybody would have to do as a straddling jobs and such, to give themselves the best opportunity to start to succeed when they get to the new job. But interestingly, I thought it was good that they addressed Fraser Thornton. And Fraser Thornton has been a jack of all trades in terms of the boardroom. He came in as the chairman, then he became the director, then the acting CEO. And what the Rangers website said was Fraser Thornton will continue to serve as acting CEO until Jim starts later in the season. Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier. After that time, Fraser will assume the duties of executive director, maintaining a significant day-to-day presence within the club, including leading key stakeholder relationships and working closely with Jim to ensure the board's strategy is delivered effectively across the club. Now, as part of that article, it did say that the strategy is 100% Andrew Kavanagh and Parag Marathi, and that's what's going to happen. And Jim and now Fraser will be supporting that from the boardroom or from the execution side, if you like. So I wonder if Fraser's going to play that conduit between, essentially translating what Andrew and Parag want into operationalising it into Jim speak, so to speak, so that we can get those things organised as well. So it's going to be exciting, but the things are just slowly getting into place, aren't they? I thought we'd be talking about multiple players having been signed by now, and that's not the way it's worked out thus far, which is kind of odd, because I think I was saying a couple of pals yesterday that I know the window opens on January the 1st, but surely there's conversations that are taking place, and there might be rules that say you're not allowed to approach the club formally or anything, but agents are there, and agents will talk to anybody at any point, to make sure that they're doing business and the players are looked after. And it's one of these things that I'm not saying we sign all these players on the 1st of January, but to wait until the 11th of January for our first signing, having known that a couple of bids were submitted last time, it's just back to that old, you know what, we've almost got access to too much information now. And when we know that a bid's going in, it's not like it was back in the day. And by the way, it might not even have worked like this back in the day, but the information we had at the time, which was newspapers and radio and TV, would say a bid's gone in, it's been accepted, he's at Ibrox, he's had a medical, everything's A-OK. And then it felt like it happened in a day. And it probably wasn't always like that. Maybe it was every now and again, but I don't know. Maybe the information that we're receiving just feels like it's prolonged, and especially when we're desperate to get these players in, because what we're looking to do now is not stem the bleeding like we were before. We're looking now for them to come in and enhance, to help the squad right now and give us that opportunity for even greater successes as we're moving forward in the rest of the season here. So going to be very, very interesting. And another interesting thing is, just when we're really flying here, 5 league victories on the trot, as I mentioned, we've now got a wee bit of a funny end to January. We're sitting here now on the 12th of January, as I mentioned, and we've only got one more league game before the season finishes. Before the month ends, because the Hibs game was moved to the Sunday, which is now the 1st of February. And we're in that situation where we've got the Cup game this week against Annan, then we've got a European game, then we're at home to Dundee, and then we've got the final Europa League game against Porto, and then we've got the Hibs game. So only one more opportunity for us to gather some points before the end of the season. Why do I keep saying the end of the season? Before the end of the month. Come on, Gary. And then we'll see where it goes from there. I was a wee bit disappointed when I kind of read that yesterday in preparation for today's pod, because we're on a roll, and we're really starting to gain momentum and push forward. So it would have been great to get another couple of games in there, but that's just the way things go. And the European games are just a wee bit of a nuisance now, aren't they? Because we've got nothing to play for other than maybe a wee bit of pride, some game time into legs that maybe haven't had a lot of game time, and some money in the coffers if we manage to pick up a point or two along the way. So talking about games, the game segment here, 2 games against Aberdeen, still weird, still don't 100% understand what happened there. The first one was last Tuesday, I think it was Tuesdays, wasn't it? 2-0 home win to Aberdeen. I could almost double up both and say both were quite routine. There wasn't a lot to it. The weather was kind of honking, and both were there. 2 goals from 2 set pieces. This set piece coach really has got something, and it's all right having the coach there, but you still need the players to apply what the coach is suggesting, make it fit and tailor it to themselves, and then be in a position to actually execute come that. So it's not just the coach. Like the coach definitely gets the credit for that. I say that once again as a life and leadership coach, but it's the person, it's the people who are applying the actual learnings in and of themselves that are really putting it there, and none more so than Fernandez. He's just having a great season, and a great season, having a great, what would that be, 2 months? Frozen at signed for $3.5 million or whatever, completely frozen out by Russell Martin, introduced almost through necessity, through the injuries and suspensions and whatever else it was, actually injuries in the African Cup of Nations, wasn't it really? And then he's just growing week after week after week after week. And the interesting one about this goal was Chermiti was right behind him for the first goal, and he was just going to tap it in, and then he's on a roll, because that's a couple of games obviously that he hasn't scored since his wonder show at Shark Head there. And the second for Nico Raskin, another, it's almost you could call it the trademark Raskin goal there, really, can you? Him just ghosting in. You don't need to be the biggest guy on the pitch, and just getting it right in there. And we had some defensive faux pas, that long ball that's been the scourge of us for feels like a decade, doesn't it? The teams they're going to press super high up the field. They don't have a lot of pace in defence. Put it over the top, run onto it, give yourself a chance. And thankfully, they didn't control it, and it didn't come to anything. And it was one of those. That was a wee bit, especially the Ibrox game on Tuesday, was a wee bit reminiscent of some of the first half against that mob from the East End at Shark Head, because there was a lot of space that they had. They just couldn't control it. The boy went through the first time, miscontrols it, all the fans go away, and he boots the ball right into there. I mean, that's and we're spraying water and getting lambasted for it. Maybe they should be talking a wee bit more about that thug as well, because I could have gave someone a real bad one. I could have somebody's glasses into their face, or glass into their eye, or hitting a kid or something like that. Just absolutely petulant clown, absolute idiot. And then they did a great save from their goalie second half, and a couple of wee mini scares for us, but nothing too much to worry about. Again, kind of routine, and I don't mind using that word at all. In terms of the positives, 3 points, absolutely clean sheet. You never know if you're going to hit a dip after a really big result, because it feels that the team, the club as a whole, have been wont to do that after big results, where we end up just in some way just not being able to adjust to the high of a big result, and then we end up kind of stuttering and stammering a wee bit afterwards. So it was great to see that never happened. And Nico Raskin was fantastic. I thought, just seems to be back to his best. A wee bit worrying that he disappears from his best form and then comes back into his best form and then disappears. It's a little bit up and down, and I don't know if that's tactical or in some way there's something else going on, but great to see when he's in that sort of flow. He's absolutely dynamite. He really is absolutely brilliant. Another goal for Fernandez. Barron, as it turns out, might be his last game of the season, was absolutely brilliant again. Went off, assuming that he was going off to get the adulation from the fans and give him a wee bit of a breather, and then he's out for 3 or 4 months. Now, absolutely unbelievable. Maybe that's why they were giving him 70 or 80 minutes before, because the amount of running he does, that takes a toll on the body, and none more so right now. So I wonder if we overused him, and maybe that's with the benefit of hindsight. We're saying that now, but for him to come off, nobody really is none the wiser. And then all of a sudden, him and Dujon Sterling being injured is nothing new. He's basically always injured, and when he comes in, he plays really well, and then he gets injured again. He's just one of those guys. And I don't know if the injury for him stems from the car accident he had when he was when he was driving when he shouldn't have been driving a couple of weeks back there. I'm not sure. But the negatives, obviously, Barron's injury is a negative after the match. Some nonsense defending a wee bit in the first half especially. And the theme of the negative between this game and yesterday's game against Aberdeen is I really wish we'd went a wee bit more for the throat in terms of goals, because goal difference is going to be a big differentiator for us in terms of what things look like as the season goes on. And it's the same every season, of course. I know I keep saying this, but we had an opportunity there because Aberdeen aren't really that great, and we did have opportunities. It would have been great to get a 3 or a 4 or something like that, just to continue to climb up that and take the goal difference out the equation as much as we possibly can. In terms of the stats, it says the Rangers website said we 64% possession. We had 19 shots on target with 8. 19 shots on target with 8 on goal, and we scored 2 of them, so that's 25%. Not really good enough, really. And Aberdeen had 6 shots with 3 on target and scored a big fat 0. So that's that. In terms of the ref watch, I think it's been well publicised on this podcast anyway. In my opinion of Nick Walsh is I think he's an idiot. I think he's a egomaniac. I don't think he's a good referee, and he just goes out there and puffs his little chest out and runs about and tries to dictate the play and wants to be the star of the show. And here's a thing, and this is a theme for both games as well. There is, and I mentioned this last week, there is something to do with the referee seeing the colour of a Rangers jersey. Yesterday was black and Tuesday it was red. And they say that's bulletproof in some way. You can kick that guy a wee bit harder because he gets 20 grand a week and you're only on 2,500 a week. So he can get kicked 3 times as hard. And then eventually, we'll maybe start to settle things down, because the treatment that we get versus the treatment that other players get in teams is, it's literally there for everyone to see, and yet nothing seems to be happening about it. And this is the time where Danny Rule and the team should be coming out when there's no sour grapes, when there's nothing to dispute in terms of you cost us that result, just to come out and say, I'm sure the referee would want to look at that one again, or I'm sure the referee, once he looks at that again, will see that definitely wasn't a yellow card. It wasn't something that that was worthy of a red, or a disallowed goal, or whatever it was. Start to put the pressure on now, when it appears like we've got nothing to lose, but we're just doing it for the good of the game. We're doing it for the protection of our players and the betterment of standards of the referees, quite frankly. So we don't seem to want to do that right now, and that's a wee bit of a shame. Maybe Jim Gillespie will change that narrative when he comes in. But yeah, I don't like him. I don't think he's a good referee, and it doesn't really matter what he did. He's getting a 6 out of 10 for that one. And yesterday's 2-0 win at Aberdeen, kind of sprightly start. Actually, do you know what? Good game overall. I quite enjoyed the game in terms of both teams trying their best end to end. Not a lot of stupidity or anything like that. Entertaining to watch, and obviously our atmosphere is a wee bit better as Rangers fans watching the games now, because we're kind of looking forward to it. We're getting a bit of banter, a bit of blether during the games and such as well. So that was great. Jack Butland did a brilliant save early in the game. That on the first one, I think, who was it now? I think it was maybe Alec Liddell, my compadre and VP in the Rangers Supporters Club of Calgary. He was kind of a wee bit down on Butland because it looked like he spilled it first time, but then when you seen it from the other angle, he's seen it very, very late, and he was completely stretched to get that save. And unfortunately, he was able just to keep it out, and then nothing came of that. And that was really the only real great chance that they had. And then we've got another set piece goal, and this one was a wee short corner between Tav and Magoma, and then into Asgard, who peels off his guy. And they showed that replay on Rangers TV, who are taking, I assume, Sky's feed. And they showed that replay about a dozen times, trying to find if there's some guy offside somewhere. He wasn't offside when the ball was kicked, and then he came back and hit the ball from an onside position, or an even more onside position as well. Sorry, Sky, nothing to see here. Absolutely great goal, and good for Asgard as well. He's the enigma for me in this team. I think I've said this before, where he's the guy that is, I think there's something, if Danny Rule can just find that little thing, whether it's a wee bit more aggression, whether it's a wee bit more energy, whether it's a wee bit more muscle or weight or vision or whatever it is. I don't know the game like these guys do. I think there's a player there. He's got very, very quick feet, and when you've got quick feet, that gives you a really good ability to take guys out of the game and then, move forward and kind of start to spray the ball about. So good for him, and that's a fairly decent goal return he's had over the last wee while. Yes, he had a bad half at Sharkhead. Other players have had bad halves at Sharkhead and came back from that as well. So nothing too much to worry about. Then we have the Fernandez goal chalked for a foul on the goalie. Is that what we're going to call that? So we get the goal very quickly, actually, after the first goal, and it was brilliant. It was kind of weird goal, wasn't it? I mean, he goes up there on his own, nods it in. Nobody's really complaining. And then the referee gets a bit badgered by their goalie, and then VAR looks at it, and they're supposed to look at every goal, which is fair enough. And then the referee, Dave Dickinson, goes over to the screen, and there's one angle, right? So if you see it from the angle the referee would have seen it from, then you're looking and you go, that's no foul. And there's one angle where Fernandez is up and he has to get purchased to get himself up with his arms, and then his arms are up there, and then the goalie runs into him. So the goalie goes into where he is and doesn't get the ball. He heads the ball in, and then that's it. And apparently, by the rules of the game, that's interference of the goalie, despite our player being there first. So what, you're supposed to move it the way of the goalie? So I was going to give the referee a hard time for that particular goal, but apparently if it's the rules, then I don't like the rule. And it's not so much the interpretation of the rule, but I thought it was rotten. I thought it was a terrible decision, actually, but maybe nothing we can do about that. Good first half, lots of chances in the second half, and then we get the penalty for Gassama. He almost flailed his arms out of the penalty in the first place, which would probably have been looked at by VAR and then awarded anyway. See that embellishment that he does? He's getting a bad reputation. He already has a bad reputation in Scotland for doing that, and I just don't like it. I just don't think it looks... He's not very good at it either, so it's always just, those theatrics or that dramatic, dive thing. But it was a clear penalty, absolutely nothing, no need to do any of that, is really what I'm saying, because of that. And Tav's penalty, whoa, that was a penalty. When you see Tav's highlights when he's finally done with us, that one will be in there. That's as close to perfect a penalty. Like, the goalie was almost there. He dived, he gave it his best shot, and it was just so hard, so precision, right into the side netting. Absolutely brilliant penalty. And then, he was loving it, wasn't he? He was right into it. Usually he's a wee bit more subdued than that, but maybe he's been smarting from some time on the bench this last wee while. He actually played really well yesterday, I thought. Tav, to be actually, everyone did. He played really well. And then just going over the fans, celebrating, and you could tell the game was done at that point. And as I said, it's getting into routine victory mode has been I'm very comfortable with it, and long may that continue. So in terms of the positives, the result, of course, 3 points, a clean sheet again. Everyone was playing for each other yesterday. That's what I'm starting to see. And then you see that camaraderie with the fans as well. Really, really, really good. Super Jack Butland's save in the first half was really a game-defining save, not a game-saving save. I think we'd have still won the game anyway, but an excellent save. And that's us back to second in the table. Looking at the league table now, it wasn't that long ago we were down in, what was it, 8th, 7th, 6th, and it was just an abomination of a beginning of the season. So for us to be back to second and within striking distance of the top at this point in time, just beyond halfway, absolutely incredible. No negatives for me for this one. I think it was great. In terms of the stats, 48% possession is what the Rangers website said. 14 shots with 9 on target, scored 2 of them, so that's about 25%, kind of ish. Kind of still not good enough. We need to be converting more of them versus 6 shots on target and 5 on goal for them as well. In terms of the ref watch, Dave Dickinson, I qualified, I initially thought what I thought, and then I've learned better since then in terms of the rules. So he's just applying the rules, but I just think this, what would you say, colour blindness? I'm going to start sounding like my dad now, because he was always like, you're colour blind, but he was really talking about Rangers players passing to the opposing players. But, I think there's this propensity to think that just because we are on a higher echelon of football in Scotland, because we are earning more money than everyone else, that in some way we're tougher, in some way we're not human beings, in some way our skin and bones and veins and blood flow is made up differently than other people. That's not the case. You need to protect every single player on the field, and that should be one of the first tenets of a referee's job. And they're not doing it. And he didn't do it yesterday. Very, very inconsistent throughout the entire game. Tried to make it a wee bit about him as well. So I'm actually going to give him a 5 out of 10, because I think he went out of his way to penalise Rangers as much as he possibly could, rather than letting the game flow and letting the best team win. So he's getting a 5. That's a statement there. So do better, referees. The next game is this Friday. odd Friday night game in the Scottish Cup, and that's at home to Anaheim Athletic. Now, we know what happened in the Scottish Cup at home last year, don't we? So let's have no repeat of that, please, Rangers. And that's a 2:45 Eastern Standard Time kickoff, 7:45 in the UK. I imagine we'll be playing some fringe players in there with the opportunity to get some minutes in, getting some of the stats up, and then giving the rest of the boys a wee bit of a breather and a break as well. One of the joys of having a rather large squad there. In terms of shout-outs for this week, I'm going to start off with one very, very close to my heart. Every now and again, we don't do it all the time, but every now and again we do a 50-50 in the club. We only do it when there's enough fans there, to justify a 50-50. So the last one we did was at the Old Firm game. This one we did was because there was 12 adults there yesterday, 5 kids. A really good return for the folks coming back. There was only 9 at the Old Firm game. And so we did the 50-50 and I won it. Yeah, I won it. $20 of pure profit. Well, actually, that's not true. It's a $5 to join it. So $15 of pure profit, which I managed to sink behind the bar forthwith and have a couple of pints with my winnings as well. So a 50-50 win, starting the year. I don't think the year could have started any better. Really, honestly, I don't. And on a more other personal note, I would like to congratulate Greg Campbell from the Fullarton City Football Club. And Greg is the son of Brian and Gaynor Campbell and the sister of Stella Campbell. And Brian was a wee bit on and off of communications on the weekend, very, very busy with coaching Greg's team, being an assistant coach to Greg's team, and they won the Anaheim Cup this past weekend. Yesterday afternoon, in fact, was when they won it as well. And he shared a photograph of Greg with a trophy up above his head, and he said it was the season. It wasn't all like leading up to, we've got a really good chance of this win. I think the season was a wee bit inconsistent, a wee bit up and down. Ring any bells there, Greg? And the team managed to squeeze it out at the end there. So congratulations to Greg, to Brian, all the coaches and all the families and players with the Fullarton City Football Club. Breeding winners, nothing wrong with winning at a young age. A reminder for the NARCO event here coming up next month. Actually, do you know what? That's literally a month today. It starts February the 12th to the 15th in Myrtle Beach, and that's going to be most of the events at the Old Bull and Bush. There's golf each of the days as well, and there is the Rangers versus Hearts game at the Kakalaki Loyal, which is Barry Bryson's club down there. There's going to be a curry on the Saturday night as well at the Masala Indian Bistro, I believe. So if you're looking for any details, thinking of joining them there, please contact NARCO2025 at outlook.com. That's NARCO2025 at outlook.com. Another reminder for Amanda and Jason Junior Ross, who are running the London Marathon on behalf of the Royal British Legion. I will leave the link there as always. And now that the Heart and Hand and CJ Novo and Four Lads gig has been done in Edmonton, it sold out last week, and which was fantastic. And I checked in with David, was it today or yesterday, something like that, and he said the show was great. These things are always a wee bit better when the team are doing well, aren't they? And they had a great time. They had a really good time, and it's a good turn for Edmiston House and such as well. And just to turn to another area of the world, the Dubai Loyal Rangers Supporters Club are having a Legends weekend this coming January. I guess it's at the end of the month, isn't it? January 31st to February 1st, over a couple of days. And they have the wonderful, magnificent Graham Souness. They have Mark Haitley, and they have, once again, David Edgar, MC. Does that guy ever stop? He gets about a bit, doesn't he? So David is going to be doing that as well. And Colin McCabe is the chairman of the Dubai Loyal, and I'm going to get him on the podcast. Today was a wee bit busy. There's a theme forming here, if you're paying attention. I keep saying that every week. But I'll try and get him on. No, that next week would be the 19th. I'll try and get him on next week as well, just to kind of talk about the event and just give it a wee bit of a plug. Colin's a great guy. They're doing great work there. You might have seen some of the stuff on social media from the Old Firm game. It was absolutely mobbed, and they've got a good kickoff time, and then they have a bit of a party as well. So good for them. So hopefully I'll get Colin on next week. And they also have singer Robin Keane. You might have seen her doing a lot of Rangers stuff online as well. She's absolutely fantastic, beautiful voice on her. So yeah, it's a good event that they're doing. A lot of things are starting to take a look like NARSA these days. I did say that before, didn't I? It's beginning to look a lot like NARSA. So these guys are doing great work, and there's a whole bunch of events going on there. I'll get some contact details for that for you too. On the convention, I should say, 149 days and 21 weeks. We are absolutely flying by here in terms of the timing of this. That's June the 14th, June the 11th to the 14th, forgive me. We're saying that June the 11th to the 14th. Tickets are out for sale. Hotel bookings are out for sale, of course. And we have solidified the itinerary, which I'll communicate to you next week. And next week, I will also be communicating to you our first VIP ex-player legends that are joining us just prior to recording today. I'm a wee bit later today. It's 2:53 p.m. my time today, and just prior to recording, we got one of the VIPs absolutely confirmed. We had another one confirmed as of yesterday, and we have another one with an opportunity. We're going to give him a call and see if we can actually make it work this time. And this is a lineup that you might not expect, and a lineup that I'm absolutely sure you're going to be delighted with in terms of the theme that we're going for and how that's going to marry itself in with the overall event as well. I was chatting with Brian last week actually, and you know the process of obtaining a VIP guest, there's not really a hard and fast process per se, other than there's a certain criteria that we say, this is what we're asking you to do, this is what we will do for you, this is what we expect from you. And the rest of it is just not linear. It's does someone have that person's phone number? Do we have a contact of a contact of a contact? And then we start to court them, and then we start to kind of put a bit of pressure on without putting too much pressure on. There's not an exact science to it, folks, but it's a lot of work. And Brian has been absolutely on the case. Alan a little bit more too. He's been out of town, so Brian's been taking up the mantle on that, and it's finally coming to fruition. We have two. I'm not going to communicate them today because I want to do a better job of that in terms of the stats and facts and figures and why they'll fit in with the overall theme of the event. So please do stay tuned for next week. Guaranteed 100%. You've got a GG cast iron guarantee that there is going to be a VIP announcement next week and the weeks coming after that too. So please do tune in for that, and please do get your tickets as soon as you possibly can. And just in other NARSA business, there was a meeting with a variety of fans groups last week with Chairman Andrew Kavanagh and other leadership from the club. And Alan McWatt, as I mentioned, he was out of town, and I think he took the meeting from Bangkok or somewhere. Like he's on holiday, and he has been as available as he can be away from there. I know what it's like. Most of us that have been inherently involved in the actual mechanics of NARSA would know what it's like to be on holiday and still working for NARSA, and that's exactly what Alan's doing. Thank you very much, Alan, for doing that. And he attended the meeting, and there was some, you've probably seen online if you paid attention to that sort of stuff, there was some synopsises of the conversations and what was talked about and such. We had an opportunity to talk a wee bit about RTV and also about overseas access to Rangers merchandise, basically, because it's got more and more difficult over the last wee while, more and more expensive, I should say, over the last wee while. So we got these things kind of on a future agenda. There was a lot discussed in and of that day, and once Alan gets back, and we'll maybe get him back on the pod here over the next month or so, just to kind of give us a wee bit of an overview of how things are going for him and them. And one last wee bit of business in terms of NARSA. We typically are gearing up for our winter general meeting at this point, but if you were at or paid any attention to the AGM, out with all the stupidity and nonsense that was created there and in the aftermath, we did vote in that we would no longer have a meeting, and we would supplement that meeting with a report, a financial report, a director's report, an overall president's report and such. And that is underway. That will be distributed to all the membership on the 31st of January. So just over a couple of weeks away here. We'll also include the AGM minutes as well, because I'm aware that they've not been distributed as well. So a lot of stuff on the go on your behalf in the background. In terms of communications, there was indeed a Gers guide out today, and today there's going to be away days for Pittodrie. There's going to be the Diamande press conference that is embargoed for some bizarro reason after the game yesterday. The Rangers women's team highlights, they came back in action there with a Scottish Cup victory over Kilmarnock 6-0, 6 different goal scorers as well. So that's a good return. And also today, actually by now, I should have checked that out, by now the quarter-final draw of the women's Scottish Cup will have taken place by now, and we will know who the opponents are, so I can talk about that a wee bit more next week. Tomorrow there'll be a loan review, not a whole hell of a lot on Wednesday. Thursday, the press conference for the Annan game, and then on Friday, as I mentioned earlier, the Scottish Cup 4th round tie against Annan Athletic is on deck for us. Just put that game away early, Rangers. And then on Saturday, there's a big interview with friend of NARSA, Colin Steen. Very good speaker, very, very nice guy, and been a massive supporter of NARSA over the years. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that one. And then on Sunday, the Rangers women's team are back in Premier League action, and they're at home to Hibs, to champions Hibs. So they're not defending their title quite as they would probably have hoped, and this is a good opportunity for Rangers to create a wee bit more daylight between us and them, and that's at Broadwood with a 4:10 p.m. kickoff. So it's going to be kind of strange giving us that time over the weekend with the game being there and a full weekend free. A couple of lie-ins for me, and I will take that. One last wee bit of communication here is the Pyrotechnics sanction doesn't really affect us here in NARSA, of course, unless we are travelling back, and then we don't have access to tickets as a result of this. But the club had said on one of the articles on the website on the weekend, the position on pyrotechnics, I should say, is clear. Beyond the obvious safety risks they pose to supporters, incidents of this nature are now leading to increasingly firm action from football authorities, with sanctions being applied across more than one competition. Rangers is one of several SPFL clubs to have been sanctioned today as a result of recent pyrotechnics use. I don't know why it's so difficult for me to say pyrotechnics. And then it goes on to say, in addition, Rangers remains subject to a suspended 1-match ban on away tickets sales in Europe, which would be triggered if a similar incident occurs within the next 2 years in UEFA competitions. In simple terms, to avoid further escalating sanctions, the use of pyrotechnics at our games must stop. So if you happen to be listening to this and you're one of the pyrotechnics folks, please stop it. I mean, it looks great. There must be an organised way to be able to do it outside the ground or somewhere in close proximity, but at the game, you know what's going to happen, and it doesn't seem like you really give a shit, to be honest, but it would be kind of cool if you did, because we've got a 50 ticket reduction for an away game. The next one will be 100 tickets, and then when you start to be the person that doesn't get the tickets, and you'll be like, well, that's rubbish, that's not fair, it's kind of cause of you. So please stop that. I wanted to take that opportunity to tell you that. Please also like and subscribe on our YouTube channel if you can. It would be very, very, very much appreciated. And that will do it for this week, my friends. I hope you are enjoying 2026 in Rangers land as much as I am. And thank you very much, as always, for taking the time to tune in to this episode. Please do share it with someone that you think might enjoy it. And until next week, please just get that victory. Make it super routine. I don't have any qualms about using that word routine for every single Rangers game between now and the end of the season. I would be more than happy to do that. Just get a victory, get some more players in, get a wee bit more stability, and see where it takes us from then. So until next week, please do take care of yourself and all the very best. Okay, follow.